What's up, YouTube? This is True Raw 4 TV. So, Joe Biden recently visited a family in North Carolina, the Pitts family, I believe it were. And it was one of the most cringe-worthy videos that I have ever seen. And I've been a fan of politics since I was 8 years old. So in the 36 years I've been following politics, this has been the worst. This was the worst when it comes to pandering to black voters. And we've seen Hillary do some low down shit. Remember the hot sauce, the hot sauce Breakfast Club interview? Well, there ain't nothing compared to what Joe Biden just recently did. So Joe Biden, recognizing that over the past few years, he and the Democratic Party are hemorrhaging black males as far as potential voters and young people, visited, I believe it's the Pitts family in North Carolina, North Kakalaki. I think the father's name is Eric Pitts and the kids' name were Carter and Christian. So you kill two birds with one stone. All of them are males. There's no female in this particular family. Single father with two kids. And Biden and the Democrats are, particularly Biden at least, he's struggling with young voters, which is usually a strength of Democratic candidates. Usually they do very, very well with young voters, in particular over the past 60 years. Kennedy, Carter, Clinton, Obama, they all did extraordinarily well with young voters. Not old-ass Joe Biden. Not prune face. So what do they do? He has dinner, I guess, with this family. So he goes to a local cookout restaurant and gets food for himself and the family. And what does he get for the family? You guessed it, the stereotypical dinner of niggas everywhere. Fried chicken. In particular, chicken tenders and fries. The president, you put your foot in it. He himself has a hamburger. And he has a conversation with the kids, and they talk about their interests and sports and basketball and things like that. And if you look at the edited video, a few minutes into this conversation, Joe Biden looks at his watch, reminiscent of George H.W. Bush in that, I think it was the second debate in Richmond, when he was uncomfortable and wanted to get the fuck up out of there because he was doing so poorly. I think it was a town hall debate. But anyway, Joe Biden was uncomfortable because you know why? He don't like being around niggas. This is the same man who was friends with Strom Thurmond, Robert Byrd, J. William Fulbright, Jesse Helms, John Stennis, and any other racist Dixiecrat or Republican Southerner that you can think of. Remember, there used to be a strong contingent of Southern Democrats who once controlled the Democratic Party up until the 1950s. Right? You want to know why they were so powerful? Because many of those Southern Democrats, because since the South was a one-party state where the Democratic Party ruled supreme, these guys kept getting reelected and reelected and reelected and reelected. They kept building seniority, to the point where they headed almost all the fucking chairman positions because they had been there 30, 40, 50 years. So the Southern Dixiecrats ruled the Democratic Party. And since the Democratic Party was the majority party in the nation, therefore, their votes, their opinions mattered. And that's why Joe Biden, excuse me, apprenticed under these guys. Now, unfortunately for Joe Biden, when he came of age in the 1970s, the Democratic Party was starting to change. It was becoming more and more controlled by the moderates and liberals, so he had to kind of hide his racism, but it was there. He didn't have to hide it at first, such as when he came out and campaigned for J. William Fulbright at the same time he was running for Senate in Delaware, Joe Biden. And he called black kids in a speech, he equated them to cockroaches. So, it's the same man who would have called Carter and Christian cockroaches. Same man that said something about, what was it? Segregation would make the schools like a racial jungle. Desegregation, excuse me, would have made schools like a racial jungle. Same man that a few years ago said if Haiti had sunk, foreign policy-wise, it wouldn't make a damn difference to the United States. This is a man who I remember a lot of things about Joe Biden. Do you know why Obama picked Joe Biden? Well, because he was his right-hand man and all that shit. The reason why Obama picked Joe Biden, because he was the one Democrat that Obama knew that he could pick, that the American people were like, okay, well, we know how Joe Biden really feels. You know, Joe Biden is a dude that we know that he's a white supremacist in Democrats' clothing. So he you know, he'll keep that nigga Obama in check. That's why he picked Joe Biden. So to see all these idiots, these imbeciles, twerking in the streets when Joe Biden got elected made me want to fucking vomit. His vice president, Kamala Harris, who herself, when she wasn't thinking of cocks on her knees, and when she wasn't thinking about ways to just pander to idiotic voters to jettison her rise in politics, when she was actually being truthful for once, during her doomed campaign, remember, 5 years ago or so, 4.5 years ago at least, she came up and said the truth, that Joe Biden was a racist who was against desegregation. Remember, she's attacking him. Then, of course, a few months later, 5 or 6 months later, she came out and proudly accepted the nomination to be his running mate. The same man who she found so offensive just a few months earlier. I mean, I've seen the Democrats pander, boy, over my last 36 years of following politics. I remember Bill Clinton with the saxophone, you know, on the Arsenio Hall show, pandering. You want to know why he was pandering? Because he was getting a lot of criticism for his tough on crime stance. Because he didn't want to repeat the mistakes of Mike Dukakis and other quote-unquote liberals and seem to be soft on crime. This is a man who was campaigning, flew back to Arkansas to oversee the execution of a mentally challenged black man who didn't even know he was being executed. That's how mentally incompetent he had become because of a lobotomy. Bill Clinton oversaw that barbaric execution just to prove his cojones as I'm gonna be tough on these niggas in crime. So he went to he went to Arsenio Hall show, put on some shades, played the saxophone, and wowed black people, and he became the quote-unquote first black president. By the way, Toni Morrison called him the first black president primarily because of this. He was from a single parent household, no father. He was poor, from the South, and he was a sexual deviant. So therefore, in Toni Morrison and other people's minds, he played into the stereotype of what a black man is all about in this country. The other thing I remember the Hillary used to do and build to a certain extent, when they would go to churches, not the chicken place, but the actual church, the actual place of worship, church, they would pander by, when they were campaigning, they would sort of mimic one of those old school Southern preachers. They would start preaching campaigning, and they were speaking in an exaggerated Southern accent. You know what I'm talking about? When Bill Clinton's being in those Southern churches, especially in '92 and to a certain extent in '96. Hillary did it real. She did it a lot when she was campaigning for Bill. She'd be in a Southern church, and all of a sudden she was speaking a Southern accent. Do we all remember the hot sauce BS with the Breakfast Club a couple of years ago? So, yeah, just want to bring this to your attention. Now, I want to end this video by saying this. Both sides do this. They don't appreciate our votes. I saw on Fox News the other day where some idiot said that Trump's shoes are going to help him win the black vote. And I saw Trump say something about black people can identify with him being indicted. Neither one of these people, the left or the right, Republicans, Democrats, whatever, respect us. That's why I stood with Ice Cube when everybody else was calling him a coon, when he said that I want to go to whoever takes us seriously and speaks some intangibles. But everybody was calling him a coon. Ice Cube was 100% correct, and we owe him an apology.